Okay, we're going to now move on to Rich Nolan, President and CEO of the National Mining Association. Rich is also a member of the USEA Board of Directors. Rich, the platform is yours. There we are. Morning, Rich.
Will, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Great. Thanks for that kind introduction. Want to start to say a warm, heartfelt thanks to the team at USEA who has had our hearts and minds over these past months. I think you've all done a fantastic job under a difficult time, and we certainly miss Barry Worthington smile in the audience with us this morning. He was a true great in the industry, and we miss him, and our heart goes out to he and his family moving forward. Vicky and Sheila, thanks for your leadership and bringing us all together today. I'd like to start off this morning by saying that, there's an old saying you often hear in the ag and mining communities: if you can't grow it, you have to mine it. Following a year in which we've all thought so hard about essential industries and essential workers, I stand in true admiration of the essential, irreplaceable role of America's miners in making our modern world possible. Mining doesn't just provide the fuels that have so long kept the lights on. It's the front end of nearly every energy supply chain the industries gathered here today. When I addressed this group last year, it was the first time the National Mining Association included hard rock mining alongside coal at the USEA. While the vital role that mining plays in energy may have surprised many last year, what a difference a year makes. Now, just this month, the Department of Energy announced the creation of a new minerals office focused on energy supply chains. DOE is also providing loan guarantees to new mining, processing, and recycling operations for minerals essential to every energy technology. And for the first time, the International Energy Agency will be releasing a standalone report this April on the mineral foundations of the world's energy future. And as we eye that future and the opportunities now before us, America's mining industry has never been so important to delivering it. Just as the world remains firmly in an era of energy addition, which many of the speakers have talked about today, with the global energy demand expected to jump 50% by mid-century, we are now in the most mineral and metal-intensive moment in history. We all rely on metals stretching the full breadth of the periodic table, not just for high-tech satellites, but also for smartphones and the thousands of everyday modern miracles. The ambitious energy and infrastructure proposals of the Biden administration is pursuing, like this week's move to convert the federal vehicle fleet to Made in America EVs, are built on a foundation provided by America's mining industry. From millions of solar panels, wind turbines, to Teslas and batteries upending transportation, none of it will happen without mining. One forecast after another projects soaring metal demand coming from the energy industry. The World Bank sees the demand for a range of metals, particularly those used in EVs like lithium, nickel, and graphite, jumping 1,000% by 2050. Based on the accelerated speed of electrification, that surge in demand is well underway. Consider the impact of the EV revolution will have on just two key metals, copper and lithium. EVs use 4 times as much copper as internal combustion cars. And the electrification of transport, along with heating industries, means that to keep pace with the expected demand, we will need to produce the same amount of copper in the next 25 years as human beings have produced in just the last 5,000 years. Just a few months ago, Tesla announced it's going to produce 20 million cars per year by 2030. The batteries for those cars will require a supply of lithium that is currently 8 times the capacity of the existing global lithium industry. Tesla is just one automaker in accelerating the race towards the electric future, a race that increasingly feels more like a stampede. And as automakers across the globe scale up their EV ambitions, it's clear that the electrification will require expansion of mineral production at a scale and speed the world is only beginning to comprehend. Preparing for the metal demand we know is coming means we must build responsible, robust, and responsive supply chains. And where we can, those supply chains and the middle-class union jobs that will support it should be American. And the mining industry is ready to build back better. There is no doubt about the fact that made in America also translates into mined in America. And as I think it's plain to see, building America's advanced energy manufacturing capacity and providing the responsibility to produce materials to supply it requires aligning U.S. energy policy with smart U.S. mining policy. And let me be clear, mining policy is energy policy. From building critical supply chains to continuing to provide the affordable, reliable power to underpin this economic recovery, there is no path forward that doesn't lean on the nation's miners. At the National Mining Association, we remain steadfastly committed to an all-of-the-above energy approach. And like the Biden administration, we recognize the critical need for advanced technology-driven emission solutions for the fuels that remain the backbone of the U.S. energy equation in many states. While there has been noteworthy progress in advancing policy to incentivize development and deployment of carbon capture technology, much more needs to be done. On the campaign trail, President Biden called for a doubling down on CCUS. We couldn't agree more. Affordable, reliable, dispatchable power will remain the foundation of the nation's energy mix well into the future. It's my hope we move beyond the failed policy of fuel targeting for emissions reductions and instead embrace the potential and necessity of U.S. technology leadership. The global energy demand forecast is soaring. The International Energy Agency sees global electricity demand jumping nearly 80% by 2050, and there is no meeting that demand without coal. Coal continues to not only be the world's leading fuel for electricity generation, it's an irreplaceable tool in addressing both energy poverty and access. Asia, for example, already consumes 70% of the world's coal, and that percentage will rise in the years ahead. If the U.S. wants to produce predictable, effective climate solutions, advancing technology that works with the fuels that the world has and will continue to use should be a priority. And in that same vein, we can't have such a narrow focus on emissions reductions at home that we threaten the reliability and affordability of our own electricity grid. This summer, a Morning Consult poll found that 85% of Americans concerned about rising electricity rates. The majority of Americans said they don't want to pay an extra dime to support the move away from fossil fuels. And while the cost of solar and wind is indeed falling, the cost associated with integrating this variable capacity continue to climb. Whether it's dealing with intermittent issues or building thousands of miles of new high voltage transmission capacity, these costs are falling on ratepayers. As the economic impact of the pandemic continues to reverberate, affordable energy is not something we can jeopardize. There is an economic angst in America again. Millions already can't afford to pay their power bills. Some well-founded caution about energy policies in order and a little humility. California's rolling blackouts this summer were startling. In their wake, an exasperated California assemblyman recently said, "Today we have a grid that is increasingly expensive, unreliable, and unavailable when the people of California need it the most," unquote. From California to Texas and the UK, we are seeing in real time the challenges posed by integrating more intermittent power are growing more acute, not less. After a summer of headlines touting its reduced coal use, this winter Britain's grid operator has issued 4 alerts begging consumers to cut demand and avoid blackouts. In response, Britain is using more coal than it has in 2 years to keep its lights on. It's not the hour-long periods of reduced renewable capacity that will be tough to solve. It's the weeks-long periods and seasonal fluctuations in potency that are the highest hurdles. We have to be clear-eyed about these challenges. Better valuing the fuel security and reliability provided by the fuel mix we still have is an important place to start. Coal remains critical to our electricity mix with natural gas prices forecasted to rise. The U.S. Energy Information Administration sees coal demand increasing by 14% this year. Our balanced, dispatchable fuel mix has been a strength of the U.S. energy equation. It shields consumers from price spikes, ensures affordability and reliability. With consumers needing that shield this year more than ever, coal will be there. Whether or not it remains in the years ahead will be a question of policy and our willingness to promote innovation and understand the value provided by an all of the above energy mix. The opportunity for the energy industry to lead the nation's recovery is immense. We can and should build back better, but doing so means not imperiling the energy foundation we currently have. The mining industry is hard at work. I'm sure that whether it's ensuring affordable and reliable power, reshoring critical industries, rebuilding our infrastructure, or building energy supply chains of tomorrow, we will indeed be ready. Let me conclude by saying that we're on the verge of a U.S. mining rebirth. Despite the challenges all of us are facing in these unprecedented of moments, I have never been so confident of its arrival. Thanks for having me here today, and again, appreciate all the work that the USEA does on behalf of all the panelists and the membership. Will?
Rich, thank you. Thank you for pointing out the importance of mining, both not only as an imperative for fuel, but also to the larger economy, to energy security and national security. I was wondering if you might expand a little bit on what your members are doing to satisfy America's needs for critical minerals and to reduce our dependence on critical minerals that come primarily these days from China.
We are now seeing a tremendous amount of capital starting to flow back into the United States to invest in these projects. The forecast and the demand for these materials are out there. This is now truly a bipartisan effort. You see moves from both the previous administration, now the Biden administration, as recently as yesterday with Granholm's testimony for the NR committee in support of the critical minerals research and some of the new loan programs that are being stood up at DOE, becoming very important to our membership to put that capital in place to get across that long path line to investment, putting in mining facilities like building a factory underground in many situations, and that takes a long capital string time. So we are partnering with our federal partners, our membership, and overseas investment in the United States to bring those resources to the forefront.
Fantastic. Do you see a role and a role for enhanced research on critical minerals and that be undertaken perhaps at the Department of Energy in cooperation with industry?
Absolutely. I think that is underway. You certainly see that at both Department of Interior and the Department of Energy. Many of these materials that people need are co-located with traditional commodities like copper and silver and gold, and the separation of that and that technology, there's always need for new innovation and constant improvement. So we're excited about that potential and moving forward to raise all boats in the mining sector.
Great. If you've got time, I'd like to ask you one more question.
Sure, absolutely.
You mentioned carbon capture, utilization, and storage. The passage of last year's legislation and the guidance on 45Q gives us a lot of hope that this is going to be a technology that will become more commercially deployable in the future. And the IEA and others see this as an essential technology to limit global climate change. Can you talk a little bit about what you see are the next steps and what's needed to make this technology more commercially viable across a larger footprint?
Sure. I think the investments that were made in the last Congress are a significant bipartisan step forward. You now see both coal and gas looking at this technology and making significant investments, more demonstrations, more resources put forward through the Department of Energy's fossil program to get these programs more commercially viable and to bring down that cost curve are going to be essential. We've seen a commitment, at least through the campaign from the Biden administration for CCUS, and as you mentioned, the International Energy Association also says it's essential to meet those global targets. So we're excited about it, and we'll be investing a tremendous amount of resources there.
Great. Well, Rich, thank you for spending time with us today and giving us a sense of where we are with the industry and giving us a sense of the importance of the industry to the national economy, to the energy economy, to the international economy. We look forward to seeing you again at future events. Thank you for your support of USEA.
My pleasure.